emergency for the first time in about
This is Jim, and
receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 820.1S1616, certificate number 54082. Muzak.
We were just talking about how one of the struggles or the challenges of entering an episode of the Omnibus into the great canon, when we're thinking about what makes a good story, what qualifies to be part of history, we often encounter a story that seems pretty good at the front, but when we do some investigation, what it ends up, it's just a story about a person who did two things. Like, oh, this is a person who,
if you can believe it.
Yeah, this person, rode in a helicopter and then also made wheat bread for the first time. And we're like, yeah, but there's not like that third thing. There's not the third twist.
It doesn't have to be a third thing he did. It just
Right.
has to be something unifying that makes it a story.
Yeah, there has to
Like
be
if you were going to make
kind
a biopic of Helicopter Wheat Bread Man, who I believe is fictional, right?
I just made him up.
This story is not going to be about Helicopter Wheat Bread guy?
No, it's right in the title. The show is about Muzak, but really, there is no helicopter wheat guy. But I find guys like that all the time, or people that seem very interesting, like the first black sheriff of Oklahoma. It sounds like this is a great show. The first black sheriff of Oklahoma.
I am ready to greenlight 11 episodes of this for streaming.
Yeah, and then you spend an hour looking into him, and he was that's the whole story. He never arrested anybody famous. He never changed the law in Oklahoma.
This seems autobiographical. This sounds like something that happened to you. You tried to do a show about this guy.
Well, I've talked about it before, trying to do the show about the guy that invented both methamphetamine and oil refining. Otherwise, he lived a very normal life.
He changed your life, but he didn't know.
That's right. He changed all of our lives. Where would we be right now without the combined power of meth and gas, or as people who aren't American would say, petrol.
Do they call it meth, or do they have a different name for meth also?
I think they
call
it
Is there a cute British name for meth? Or Australian?
Yeah,
I want to have some of the bloobity-doobity.
Yeah, get some squeak. We love squeak.
Squeakaroo.
No, I don't know, maybe people still call it crank. We used to call it crank in the 90s.
Crank just sounds like a fake drug in a dystopian Sylvester Stallone movie.
I mean, that's where I get squeak.
Like he's like a cyborg, and he's like, "You guys still moving crank from the port, from the docks?"
Squeak was a fictional drug in the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers comic book. They were dealing squeak at one point.
I love guys who did two things, and at one point I was making a list of them, so I think I've said this before, that I could write a book about people who did two things.
Who did two things? Well, I just gave you two great examples.
The helicopter wheat bread guy? That's not real.
No. The first black sheriff, well, he only did one thing. I mean, I guess the premise of
I feel like that guy also needs to invent Levi's or something.
It's one of those shows where the first premise is, the first thing he did was be black, right?
Right.
And then the second thing he did was do the first thing of that. There's a lot of things like that. The first woman that ever ate wheat bread on a helicopter.
And don't get me wrong, if you're from Oklahoma, you should totally put up a statue of that guy.
For sure.
But good luck doing an hour-long podcast about him?
Well,
That's a higher bar than statue, John?
No, but I think you could do a Netflix show where
you'd have to fictionalize his many adventures.
Yeah, you could make him a rakish character. He could go around doing sheriff stuff. There's so many shows where just a sheriff does sheriff stuff.
A lot of the problem is the people who did two things did not do many of them in the public eye, which means there's kind of a dearth of interesting biography about them.
Right.
Like I did a show very early about the guy who both invented the jungle gym and the idea of four-dimensional geometry.
Sure.
Remember
You can see the connection.
Tesseract guy? Yeah. And so there is a thematic connection. And also he was like kind of a leading scientist of his day. So we have a lot of interesting biography about him. I think he died during a dinner. He was like making a toast and died during dinner. It's good omnibus stuff.
That's the best way to die, in the middle of making a toast.
But the woman who like wrote the story that the Boris Karloff mummy movie is based on also designed the IRS's the 1040 form.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the mummy and the 1040 form come from the same fertile brain.
And that kind of checks out.
But does it?
Well, I mean,
the labyrinthine bandages and the complicated tax code. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I was thinking, doing your taxes is kind of like
unwrapping a mummy.
Well, or just becoming a mummy.
Okay. Yeah, that's how you do it, I guess.
Right. You feel embalmed.
And so that would be great for a page of this book. Mm-hmm. But could we talk about her for an hour? I have no idea. I mean, we're talking about nothing right now. So why couldn't it be nominally about the first black sheriff of Oklahoma?
Well, I think what we would have to do is do a show about people who have only done two things or have done two notable things.
But it seems like we're kind of implying they're losers. Like, despite their two great accomplishments, we are not interested in you at all.
Well, I mean, we have to assume that they had love lives. This is the problem with pre-internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we'll never know whether my grandfather had a mistress, because it's intrinsic to having a mistress that you not record that anywhere.
That you make sure your eventual great-grandkids don't know.
Right.
It's important.
It would make...
It's the main thing I talk about with my mistress. Hey.
Listen. But it would make my grandfather a lot more interesting. And these days, because everybody's taking pictures of everything, all you have to do is go on somebody's Instagram and go, hey, that woman keeps showing up in the background of all of your photos. This is a more interesting story. Who knows? The guy that invented the oil refining and methamphetamine might have also been a drag queen. I mean, there could be, if we just knew that third thing, he'd already be in the omnibus.
We need to know. If he was fierce, he'd be in the omnibus.
If he was fierce.
But we don't know.
Today's show does feature a couple of people who did two things.
I love it.
Or more than two things, but all taken together, they were part of a single project, unbeknownst to one another, or I guess beknownst to one another. But
like Samuel Jackson appeared and roped them into some kind of a cabal?
Well, no, this story dates to that time in American cultural life that was maybe the end of the era of polymaths, right? Like people who had a government job. William Carlos Williams was a doctor and also a poet, and he doctored all day and poeted all night. I took a biplane ride.
That was because of methamphetamines.
It was meth. That's right. You and I were together on Lopez Island last weekend, and we took a biplane ride.
Yep.
And the biplane pilot was also a dentist. He was a dentist all week, and then on the weekends he gave biplane rides.
Should we do an omnibus about him?
I feel like I've told the story.
That's it.
I don't know. I didn't ask him about is there some third weird thing about you?
Or did you invent some kind of crazy root canal that was inspired by biplane engineering?
Oh no, you know what was crazy was I was talking to his wife and she said, yeah, I met him 40 years ago when he gave a biplane ride to me and my husband at the time.
Oh.
And I was like, saucy.
Wait. Did he do the maneuver where he went upside down and then the husband fell out of the biplane?
Right.
But he forgot to do the second part where you loop around and catch him in the same seat? Because that's a very important part of that cartoon Mr. Magoo maneuver.
Maybe he flipped the plane, she fell out, and then he caught her in his seat.
Oh.
She switched seats back to the pilot
Well, that
seat.
really takes pinpoint aim, doesn't it?
It does. But he was an incredible biplane pilot, I have to say. Marvelous.
Do you feel like you would know if you were in a mediocre...
Yeah.
Is it like Uber? 2 stars.
Yeah. I feel like there were many opportunities for him to exhibit poor piloting skills, and he was great the whole time. And also, his plane is from 1926 or something, and we're sitting in the front of the 2 seats, and I'm looking at this Lycoming engine that was clearly built by hand by people 100 years prior.
So it doesn't have like an all-new engine at any point?
No. It's still running. And, and I'm looking around the house here, like I have 3 dustbusters that have died within the last 5 years. And this thing is just like, I trust this plane implicitly, like get me there. And he's buzzing lighthouses and he's also old.
Yes.
Like you would look at him and say,
he's biplane aged.
Is there a reason? Should I be getting in this biplane? Because the pilot, there are people that die when they're giving toasts.
That's what I hear.
Let alone like flying upside down in an airplane.
I have to say, though, honestly, the fact that the guy was such a intrepid biplane pilot, paradoxically, it makes me less interested in going to him as a dental patient.
Because I wondered whether maybe he wasn't the dentist I'd been looking for.
It makes him seem like too much of a daredevil to be a good dentist.
Well,
right?
that's what I'm looking for in a dentist.
You want a risk taker.
I do. I feel like I've had a lot of dentists that have been played by the book, and it's all been garbage.
Well, if I remember right, in a biplane, he was sitting behind you,
Yes,
right?
That's right.
So that's not bad for a dentist. He could do like
come around.
He could
from
do the
behind?
reach around.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a little bit risky.
Maybe
I think
maybe there's a mirror.
they should be able to see what they're doing.
Yeah, and he could land first.
Yeah. He did say on landing, would you guys please like lean? Because there's 2 of us in the front seat. Would you lean to either side so I can see the runway? And I was like, that checks out.
It would be better if you could see the. I agree.
Yeah.
I too would like you to see the runway as you land.
Agreed. And we all that was very effortless on approach. Like I was supposed to do something. I was, right. Lean out of the way.
You had one job.
I did.
I talked to my son yesterday, and he was up at that airport day last year, which I didn't know.
Oh.
And I said, did you do the biplane ride? It's like oddly affordable. And he said, no, the line was too long. But when we showed up,
they were just sitting in lawn
there
chairs,
twiddling their thumbs,
Yeah.
like kind of sad. Like, what happened to the biplane?
Yeah. I said to her,
love.
Are you telling me I can get a biplane ride for $80? She was like, yep, all day long.
Like, this is Seattle. You can barely get a crab roll for $80.
Yeah, a Seattle dog is $80. But she said, weirdly, when they give airplane rides from Orcas Island, they're like $300. I'm like, Orcas Island we're going to fly over Orcas Island. Why does that make a difference? She's like, there's just more money on Orcas.
Local tax structure.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, so I will not go to Orcas.
No, stay off of that island.
I'll wait for them to come back.
Now that we've been to Lopez Island, why would we ever go back to Orcas Island?
You've had the best.
Yeah, that's right.
Now don't try the rest.
So our first protagonist of many in this show was a person who lived in that era where it was assumed that if you were in the Army, if you were a high-ranking officer in the Army, it was completely plausible that you were also an engineer, a pilot, maybe an Olympian, right? Like you just had this kind of thing where it was like, well, our expectation is that accomplished people would be accomplished across the spectrum.
A small number of people do everything.
Yeah. Right.
And then everybody else is farming sorghum.
Right. Reading the Bible and Shakespeare and then
just waiting for their topsoil to blow away.
And you know what's great about that era is those people didn't go on the internet and express their political opinions.
Yeah, right.
All those sorghum farmers they went to the Grange Hall.
They could vote for Huey Long.
Yeah.
But that was the maximum damage they could inflict on America.
Yeah, they sat on a Cracker Barrel, literally, and yelled at their neighbors, but we never had to hear about it. Boy, those were the days.
Good times. That's snooty.
That's right.
Snooty left coast talk.
Yeah, that's right. I'm an ivory tower guy who's like, I love the idea of democracy, but not when everybody
want to hang out with them.
I mean, the megaphone was the problem. We're starting our story with Major General George Owen Square.
His last name was Square?
It's spelled Squire, but he insisted people say Square, which I think he meant Square, but with a square.
Wait. So it's the same as square.
That's what he said. Pronounce it like square, but it's spelled squire.
This seems like a affectation.
Well,
Do you think his parents said square?
this is the thing about ye olde people. They're entitled to do. I mean, there's so many names now when you look at it and you try and pronounce it, and it's like, nope, sorry, you got it wrong. Try again.
Yeah, but that's not the same as somebody midway through life being like, I think be a little cooler
Yeah.
if my name were said like this.
Well, I say my last name, Roderick, but my sister and some of my relatives say Roderick. And
This is like the Colbert family.
some of them say
Some
Colbert.
of the Stephen Colbert family say Colbert.
Yeah. And I don't remember growing up. I think it might have been Roderick.
But you decided it would be more distinguished.
Maybe not. I think I just, at some age, looked at the name, said, there's an unpronounced E there. And it's because people would say Roderick. And I would say, no, Roderick. But it's not Roderick. That would be Rodrick.
Which some people probably do have.
Yeah, it's a name. It's kind of a first name, but like it's there. That E is there for a reason, Roderick, and it's from the Welsh. It's a pronunciation of Roderick from Welsh, and whatever English person was writing it down in a book was like, yeah, we've heard that name, Roderick.
Major General Square sounds like a
Roderick.
fake guy.
Yeah, Major General
It's like
Square,
he's a sketch comedy character.
but Squire. And we're going to say Square because that's what he
Exactly.
went on record preferring. But he was a guy, one of these characters. He went to West Point, and then he got a PhD from Johns Hopkins. And he was in the Army, but also was tinkering. And so he was born right at the end of the Civil War, 1865. By 1896, so what is he, 30 years old at that point, he was already an inventor. And his first invention was the polarizing photochronograph, which was very early. It's not as early as like the stop motion film of a horse galloping, but it was a very quick action photo recording that they used in the Army to gauge muzzle velocity on cannon shells. Like they could actually use this photochronograph inside of a cannon and then immediately outside the cannon to see how
it would take a quick burst of photos, or it could just get a very is it like the thing where you see that bullet go through the apple? Like it can take a very quick exposure?
I feel like anything I say about the polarizing photochronograph will reveal how little I know about how the technology
So it's not super
works.
important to the story.
No, that's just...
But the name is great.
That's just
polarizing photochronograph.
It's to establish his credentials as a young inventor. He's in the Army. He's in the Signal Corps. And he's already trying to solve problems at 30 years old. This is the era of people trying to solve problems that hadn't existed prior. Probably in 1865, there were people in the artillery who were curious about but they never would have dreamt of the ability to tell how fast their projectiles were leaving the barrel.
Science had not yet hit warfare.
And science was all over warfare, but we didn't yet have cameras that could, as the shells got bigger and the cameras got better, of course you're going to combine them.
Is it important to have cameras? Must one see the shell?
Well, it's implied in the polarizing photochronograph that the cameras be involved.
The cameras must be very important in some way.
It's not called a polarizing chronograph.
No.
Right?
Right?
See?
I'm just thinking like that I guess it's for testing purposes. Like it's not, is it targeting maybe or speed or something?
Yeah, velocity.
Sure.
We're talking a lot about polarizing photochronography. That's very tangential to the story.
I apologize.
No, it's okay.
I just loved the name.
I know. Ken, I know you've addressed your balding in the past, and And I watched kind of a miraculous transformation in you when you started taking minoxidil or was it finasteride? I don't remember, but your hair actually grew back. And as you know, every time I sit and run my hands through my hair, I have less and less of it all the time. I'm right at that stage where when I'm backlit, as you are so often in the rock music business, you're backlit, and then everybody can see that there's it's like a forest that's been, sort of pruned. And I know you've been trying to get me to use hymns, and as far as you're concerned, I may be a lost cause, but our listeners who are suffering from premature balding might benefit from hymns. Hymns offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work. As you were saying, I think you used some kind of spray or some sort of hair gel, but they have chews, oral medications of other kinds, serums, and your favorite sprays. These are doctor-trusted, clinically proven ingredients. As I mentioned, finasteride, minoxidil. They can stop hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. I mean, I don't have to tell you, my friend. Look at you. The only reason you're not reading this ad is you're over there brushing your lustrous locks. Anyway, you shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. There are no hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. Think of hymns as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for real health concerns all in one place. Hang on, Ken. You just sit there, Goldilocks. Let me finish this ad. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, and weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/omnibus. That's hims.com/omnibus for your free online visit. HIMS.com/omnibus. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
I mean, like, I would love to have a photochronograph, but the fact that it could also be polarizing.
Yeah. See, and a lot of people in the Army were against it.
It might be polarizing our listeners right now.
The ones that know what it is,
why
and
are
the
they
ones
still
that don't.
talking about this?
Because there are some people that are like, God, you could have spent this time just figuring out what it is. Yeah,
but neither of us are quite interested enough.
No, because there's so much else to talk about.
Let's see. What is it?
All right. So then, just a short 15 years later, now he's sort of rising in the ranks at the U.S. Army. He is the man who developed the technology. He basically invented multiplexing.
I don't know what that is.
Well, multiplexing is a thing that has been present throughout our lives, and it's a thing that I think maybe over the course of my life I've wondered about a lot, which is how do you send through one cable multiple phone calls, multiple packets of information? How are we able to just string one line and have it be all the phones for a neighborhood?
Because you imagine the simple case of a single telegraph wire with one guy pressing a button and signals go through that wire. But what if the same wire is connecting 500 senders and thousands of listeners?
Right.
How does that work?
Well, multiplexing is just that each of the different streams of information is kind of at a slightly different electrical tempo, right? They are distinguished from one another through distinguishing their amplitude or distinguishing their frequency.
One of those.
Let's say amplitude. And so he was I think the first person to combine multiple signals into one wire, and then on the other end you have basically a demultiplexer that then
knows how to pull out
would separate the different
the right frequency or whatever.
And as you can imagine, that was a huge
Yeah, you couldn't have any kind of telephony without it, really.
Yeah, right. And then it became, it's still the term of art, multiplexing, for doing the same thing with digital signal. I think there are probably even people listening who are like, I use multiplexers all the time. Or I think they shortened it to MOOCs or MECs.
MUPS.
And there might even be somebody who uses it and doesn't realize that it's short for multiplex. I don't know. I'm speculating now.
Yeah, it does. But it does seem like this is still the basis of pretty much all IT.
Yeah, right. And he, in the course of his rise through the Signal Corps, like he was the commander of the ship that laid the first telegraph lines in the Philippines. And really interestingly, immediately before multiplexing, he was, in his role as an executive officer in the U.S. Signal Corps, he developed the aeronautical division of the Signal Corps. When we think about the Army adopting airplanes, initially airplanes were seen as just a form of communication.
Oh, really? They're not even recon.
Nobody's like even holding a bomb out and dropping it yet. It's just get the plane up in the air, kind of like a balloon, and fly over the enemy lines and see.
Okay, so that's what it's surveillance. Basically.
Surveillance, yeah. Huh. So the first airplanes purchased for the U.S. Army were purchased by Major General George Owen Square.
Wow.
Yeah.
This guy is Zelig-like.
Yeah, he's the first Army officer, the first Army person, first military passenger in an airplane.
He's not the pilot.
Not the pilot. I'm not the pilot, but he was the first military passenger in an airplane. Like he worked literally with the Wright brothers.
He wasn't a dentist or a pilot.
No.
But we still respect him.
And so he increasingly, I think at this point in time, immediately after World War I, where he was now a fairly, a renowned officer, he recognized that although radio was a very sketchy, I don't mean sketchy like dangerous in a dark alley, but I mean like radio in its early days was an unreliable transmission mechanism or technology.
Like
right?
Atmospheric stuff could mess it up?
Yeah, and early radios that you had in your home were delicate and tuning into...
You always see people having a hard time getting the Green Hornet or whatever.
And broadcasting, in order to have, effective radio coverage of a place, you had to have, transmission or transmitters that were pretty powerful, more powerful maybe than they could drum up in the early days. And George Square recognized that he could transmit music through electrical wires, which now were, electricity was kind of some of the first stuff to enter the home.
Yeah.
This kind of technology. And he could, using multiplexing, actually sort of best radio, better radio.
He's basically inventing cable TV, but for radio in the, whenever this is, the 20s?
in the 20s. And so he patented this process and, sort of helped form, and also those patents were kind of purchased by a corporation that he was very involved with called Wired Radio Inc. So basically Wired, he invented
Wired.com?
He invented Wired. And they were very successful in New York broadcasting music through your electrical system, and they charged you for it on your electric bill.
Would they have to run it like, how cable has to be kind of run to a neighborhood with its own cable? Or was he putting it in the power line somehow?
Putting it in the power line.
He was working with the utility to put light music, orchestra music.
Yeah.
It comes in with your 110 volt. You can plug in your iron, or you can plug in your ear.
Plug in your receiver or whatever it was, and here comes you see it even now. That FM radio will come in through your appliances.
Right.
It's all just a series of tubes, dots and dashes. And wired radio was actually pretty successful all the way through until in the 30s, radio had become the technology had stabilized.
It's mass culture. The transmitters are stronger. Everybody's got it.
And this was maybe the first in a long history of technologies that are paid for by advertising but are given to you free are preferred by people to technologies that you have to pay for but are superior, both probably in sound quality and also no ads. So it's the dawn of the madmen, but also it's already late stage capitalism. Let's be honest. You know, they're already showing you hair loss, or they're broadcasting hair loss commercials over the airwaves.
Whatever the equivalent of infomercials were.
Yeah. Brill cream.
Is your, I don't know what they would say. Is your linoleum not shiny?
Does the spearmint lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight?
Right.
But by the 30s, it became kind of obvious to the owners of Wired Radio Inc. that one segment of the world that did not want radio, did not want advertisements, did not want the kind of blaring modern jazz that was, or blaring big band jazz that was so popular at the time.
And let me ask you this. Do you think they're good? As you picture this, are they just getting one station in their house? Can Wired Radio send you multiple streams?
Yeah, there's now...
You can pick a channel. It's like essentially a cable box.
More radio stations. But you know...
But his wired one, would he just send you one song? Everybody gets the same song at the same time if you're in the same
yeah, and the crazy
neighborhood?
thing is that I think even then there was like a DJ, somebody that was...
Oh, he was also the station.
Yeah, they didn't have magnetic tape yet, so it would have been somebody like dropping a needle on a record, I think, and then sending that out through the airwaves, but without the annoying DJ blather. But what they realized was that there was still a real market for wired radio in businesses. So
why couldn't they just put on a radio
because they didn't,
like you and I did at our crappy office jobs when we were young?
If you're sitting, say, for instance, in a restaurant or in a doctor's office, and I mean, you do sometimes sit in a doctor's office and hear ads, and you're like, ugh, that's lame. But certainly if you're in a restaurant.
Spotify has fixed it.
Spotify, yeah. Oh, great.
Spotify, just as they've solved so many problems, especially for musicians.
But at the time, right, it would have been much more. I think businesses would prefer there to be not the kind of static of a radio, not the kind of unpredictability of radio, but
they don't want DJ banter and ad breaks.
And there was now a sense they were already realizing that music in offices. Actually, music in offices and then factories actually increased productivity. During World War II, as our industrial capacity ramped up, all these people were working in factories. They were all presumably, or a lot of them were doing very repetitive tasks, just putting one little Rosie the Riveter after another, all this stuff, trying to make tanks. That if they pumped in music, production went up 11% in just industrial spaces.
They should do the science fair thing where you play the bean plant, different genres of music, and you see what makes people work. And was it speed metal, like we all hope? All the kids wanted to be speed metal.
When I was in third grade, there wasn't speed metal yet. But
How old are you?
I know. But I played
than Slayer.
Played my bean plants. Let's see, classical, jazz, rock, and the presumption at the time was that rock was going to stunt the plants.
Right, classical.
Yeah, classical was going to make the plants grow.
That's what plants crave.
But two things happened. The plants did not. They all grew at the same rate. There was no identifiable difference in the plants. But also, I think more embarrassing, my mom got really involved in my science fair project, and I was clearly one of the kids whose trifold display had been done by my mom. Like you could just see that it was too good for a third grader. It was really, she got really excited about it. She was because she also is a gardener. So she was like, oh, we're going to cultivate these plants. And so there's actually a picture of me sitting in front of my science fair project. And I am just, you can see I'm so embarrassed because looking around at the other kids, like some of them were done with crayon and they looked like kid. And the kid that won the science fair had clearly done all the work himself. And I was like, ugh.
In my first campus job, we always had the light FM station on. That was all we were allowed to play. And I don't know if that's we would just pray for I don't know what the good songs were, like the piña colada song. Like there were some that were almost pop songs. Like it was occasionally into yacht rock, but usually it was just Celine Dion or it was just Delilah crap. And I don't know if that was the best genre for our productivity.
Well, we're going to see where that came from in a minute. One of the things that they noticed in pumping music into factories was that what they were playing actually really mattered. And I think one of the examples they used was that one of the songs was Gene Autry's "Deep in the Heart of Texas."
Okay.
And when it would come on, and he would say, "Deep in the heart of Texas."
Like in Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah, all the workers would stop what they were doing to clap. And they were like, oh, our 11% gain in productivity just dropped for 30 seconds down to 9% increase in productivity. So there was an increasing sense like, now there's a kind of music, there's a type of music that increases productivity up to a point.
Wouldn't it just be all songs that don't have a clapping break, according to this example?
Well, but the
vast majority of songs.
There was a recognition that that foreground music that asserted itself in any way with a heavy bass, with a lot of treble, with a lot of overcomplicated music that made you think about music, actually inhibited people's productivity, whereas background music that kind of was there and was sort of soothing and didn't stand out, didn't engage your mind in listening. In fact, as they said, engaged your heart.
Engage your heart.
Yeah, rather than your mind.
Oh, interesting.
Just sort of was a vague emotional kind of sense. There was there was programming that was more effective. At which point we're going to enter a new character, a man named William Benton, who was...
I hope he pronounced his name Benton.
Benton.
And not...
William Benton.
He decided his name would be Bonton.
He was another sort of one of these very colorful, complicated characters. After buying Muzak was something that he bought Muzak prior to the war. What happened was Warner Brothers actually bought Wired Radio, and then because they recognized that this was a kind of show business or sort of a broadcast media, but they turned around, kind of sold it almost immediately to William Benton, who was an entrepreneur, is what we would say now.
And maybe even then.
And he was the one that really pushed it into barber shops and factories of all kinds. And this was how we saw, it was Benton that really saw how it increased productivity during the war. He turned it into not just like, he didn't just expand it as a business, but kind of made it de rigueur in...
Today it's omnipresent, and it's funny to think there were a few decades when the gramophone was existing technology, but it wouldn't have been playing every time you walked into a store, an office, an appointment, a doctor's appointment, whereas now you would just assume.
Yeah, there's music kind of everywhere and sort of in the background, often not even, if you're in a mall.
You don't even notice.
It's there.
It's kind of echoey.
You have to kind of think about it. Benton went on... This is another example of someone who did two things or more than two things.
Yeah.
you would probably remember him best as the chairman of Encyclopedia Britannica, which he was for decades. But he also was the Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs. He played a role in the formation of, this is right after the war, in the formation of the United Nations. And then he was appointed to the Senate in 1949 from Connecticut.
Wow.
Then he ran to fill his seat, beating Sheldon Bush, grandfather of George W. Bush, father of George Bush. So he almost, or maybe what he did was actually infuriate the Bushes.
That's right.
And he gave us George W. Bush somehow.
Created a political dynasty.
He did.
With a single win.
And then he made his bones in the early 50s as a very prominent opponent of Joseph McCarthy. Like he was
a brave
anti-McCarthyite. Anti-McCarthyite and like Senate hearings and
probably a communist.
Well, he lost his bid for re-election
because of this.
McCarthy liked to think so. But then so in the 50s, then as both chairman of Britannica and running the Muzak family, they got in. We've talked about this a lot on the Omnibus. The mid-century period was very fascinated with psychology, with manipulating psychology. This was literally the Mad Men era of like, how do we get people to buy with their heart rather than with their head? How do we MK Ultra people into being Manchurian candidates? Like, not just the bad side,
things.
but Americans were seeing psychologists for the first time. Like, there was an awareness of psychology as a major driver.
It's a personal enrichment tool, but it's also a business tool. If you're Don Draper,
can be. And during that period, Muzak started to think of itself as like a progressive, like social business.
Was the company already called Muzak?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. In the 30s, right before General George Owen Square died, he recognized that in this transition away from radio and into broadcasting into businesses, he thought it needed a better name than just Wired Radio Inc. And at the time, Kodak had become an example of a brand that was basically a made-up name.
It means nothing, but it sticks in your head.
Yeah. And now we're living in a world where every business has a made-up name. Right. They're all like...
You expect to go to Plop Ballpark.
Or Formulon or, Frebagon or whatever. Just names, because all good names have been used, and now it's just like...
All the fake drug names in fiction are now fake social media platforms or streaming services.
Exactly.
Like watch it on Ploop.
But another example was the Victrola is like Kodak. Coca-Cola was very popular, and they were like, what if we just put Ola at the end?
The RCA Victor was like, we'll take Victor and put Ola.
Put Ola because Coca-Cola. And so
it's funny how delighted they are to have like, a new word that can be a product.
Yeah.
They've never heard of such a thing.
Victrola. And Muzak was just music plus Kodak. So Muzak,
I guess Kodak was like, I wish we could sue, but we do not own the syllable ack.
No, Bill the cat owns the syllable ack.
Or Kathy.
Yeah. Right. Who had it first?
I think Kathy probably.
Kathy. Ack.
It's different. It never occurred to me they were saying, because the Bill the cat is choking on a hairball. It's like, ack. Whereas Kathy is like, this bathing suit looks bad on me because of my hips.
Oh, Phil, but what was her boyfriend's name?
Oh, I think I can think of this. Norman. Is it Norman?
No, I don't think so, but something like that.
If you know the name of Kathy's boyfriend in the comic strip Kathy, write it on a postcard and send it to...
because it's right there.
Send it to Zoom.
Interesting. Have I told you this story that my daughter's mother/partner, Ariella, she works for a internet security firm, and the founders of the company are from Ukraine. And for a long time after she started, every time she would send the CEO some sort of like, hey, you need to address this, or we need to talk about this, he would reply, ack.
Ack?
And she was like, coming from a Kathy/Bill the Cat universe, she was like, what the hell? Like, this is something you need to do. And you're like, ack. Like, what can I do to impress upon you that this is not just a bummer for you? This is your company, and you need to take these things
Like she
seriously.
thought he was saying ugh, basically.
Yeah, right. Ugh. And she's like, so she would come home and say, I don't know what to do. Like, this needs to be addressed. And he just says, ack. And it took her, I think, a year to realize that he was saying acknowledged. But somehow in his Ukrainian translation, like he thought ack was like, he could have said yes.
This is crazy because you and I have never talked about anything related to this. This is actually kind of a point in next week's omnibus entry.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. The syllable ack is back in several, we're going to be like Billy Joel. We're just going to be ack on this show.
Ken, you know, I just recently started taking one of those weight loss medicines because I got the diabetes, and I wasn't really looking to lose weight, but I'm definitely looking to control my diabetes. So I'm trying to not just use the medication, but it kind of requires that you eat differently. You can't just stop eating, right? You have to eat your proteins and have to eat healthily. And I'm really trying to do that and exercise too. And that's why I love Factor. I do love Factor. Honestly, their chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals make it really easy for me to stay on track, but also enjoy something comforting and delicious. They have a larger variety of meals, and they have premium seafood choices, which are very good for me, like salmon and shrimp, and that's at no extra cost. And I should tell you, they actually have more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good for you fats. Those GLP drugs are the ones I'm on. Plus, they've got Asian inspired meals. They've got Chinese, Thai, and more. It's like a real boon for me trying to eat well and being, a bachelor who doesn't know how to cook. Anyway, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. So eat smart at factormeals.com/omnibus50 off and use the code omnibus50 off to get, guess what, 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. That's Omnibus 50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Thanks, Factor. At this point, it was back to the 50s.
Yeah.
Muzak was doing quite a bit of work in what they were describing as basically social progressivism.
How so?
Well, they determined that if music was too harsh, if it was too forward, if it was too distracting, it would make workers less productive, presumably less happy. Their assumption was, like I think a lot of mid-century capitalism, was that everybody wanted to do a good job. Everybody wanted to build the great American
We're all in this together
machine. And so when people were, when they drifted off from their work and were kind of focusing on Gene Autry, it interrupted their day. It screwed with their rhythms. It produced bad quality work. And so they started to identify, they gave songs mood ratings. They were rated from gloomy all the way to ecstatic.
The company did this.
Yes.
The company's
Muzak,
like, this is an 8.1.
as you can picture.
They're like Pitchfork.
That, and also they're all in lab coats and they're playing orchestral music to rabbits or to
so this is
workers.
this is data. It's not just a bunch of critics being like, we feel this is a 7. It's really like, we played this and productivity went up 8%. So.
They're doing real science here. They determined that music in the office place, after 15 minutes of music, you get a certain amount of listener fatigue. And so after 15 minutes, there should be some period of quiet. And then when the music comes back on, it's exciting for the workers, like, oh, it's back. Or they barely are supposed to notice it. It's really in the background. But also they saw that if you gradually increase the tempo, if in a 15-minute block you've got 5 songs, each one slightly more energetic, it will, people will kind of produce to the rhythm of the music.
You're making your assembly line into a little Broadway show or something.
Right. They saw then that there were periods in the day when workers flagged, like right in late morning or in late afternoon, right after lunch.
Yeah.
And that they could jazz up the music, faster tempos, a little bit hotter. And then in periods where people were a little bit too, like coming or like right up before lunch, when people are starting to get distracted,
they could chill them out.
Yeah, they could chill them out with it. And so they started making playlists.
I was about to say, this is like sequencing an album.
It is. They started making these kind of systems that businesses could use to help their employees. And Muzak started at this point making their own recordings of popular music, but they would hire orchestras and they would do versions of the songs.
So they'd have more control over the orchestration and the tempo.
That's right. And they started talking about themselves, Muzak, as international specialists. I don't know why I'm pronouncing it that way. International specialists in the physiological and psychological applications of music. This is like this is on their title page.
It's so funny to think of it as guys in lab coats and not as, just like kind of DJs and salesmen.
So they're now hiring orchestras. They're kind of advertising it as like the Muzak Orchestra, but it's really orchestras all over, to do these recordings and take out the bad vibes and have it only be good vibes. Now, this is still not a national. There's no national broadcasting technology that enables this. There are franchises that are established in all the major cities.
And are you buying recordings, or is it getting piped in somewhere?
You're buying this. So now, rather than coming in over electrical lines, it's coming through telephone lines. Telephone line. But it's still local broadcasting. In the 50s, they developed magnetic tape, which revolutionized the transmission of music. And with magnetic tape, then they could do proper playlists. They didn't have to have people in all these places, playing these records basically over the phone. They could do a whole 15-minute segment or a whole hour.
But they're still sending it to you over the phone, or they're sending you the tapes? They're sending your business the tapes?
They're sending the franchises the tapes, and then the franchises are sending it out through the phone lines to subscribers.
Yeah.
And it was then, not much longer after that they actually, paradoxically, because there was no longer just AM radio, there was now FM radio, and they could use certain segments of the FM radio frequencies to broadcast Muzak. So you didn't have to have a kind of hardwired system. And I think that there are ways to control. You can't just use any FM radio to tune in. They could maintain their subscription model. By the late 50s, they had 150 different franchises, because with FM radio, they were able then to, start selling franchises to much smaller towns. You didn't need this big electrical sort of infrastructure.
And rock hasn't arrived yet, right? So they're still kind of playing light orchestra hits.
Light orchestra hits and then doing orchestral versions of light orchestra hits. In the late 50s, Muzak then was sold by our hero William Benton to the third guy who did multiple things, Jack Rather, who was the scion of a Texas oil company, but who got early into using his oil money to buy television stations and radio stations in the Southwest, and became kind of a TV impresario in the early days of it, and he bought the rights to the Lone Ranger and Lassie and became the producer of the Lone Ranger and Lassie.
Oh, he wasn't just selling reruns; he was making the show.
He made the show. He's the guy behind the Lone Ranger. He actually then branched out into hotels, as we've seen so many entrepreneurs on our program. They end up buying hotels. He developed the Disneyland Hotel.
Really?
Owned the Disneyland Hotel.
He was the guy that Walt happened to know and gave him the franchise for the hotel right there.
Right. Well, because part of buying Muzak was partnering with Disney. The kind of recognition that there was this universe of like pleasing people with subtlety, with little examples of like
little ambient touches.
Yeah, there's no bad vibes. There's only good vibes. There's nothing is going to bum you out. No harsh tokes. It's all going to be chill.
It's an early synergy.
Yeah. And there still was at this time a real sense that this was social progressivism, that this was what the world needed. This was like modern architecture. It was taking away We're
making public spaces so pleasing and utopian.
Right.
Yeah.
We're taking away the harsh edges of industrial society, and we're replacing it with beige colors. Like, we think of this now as being such a drag and such a mind softener. And that we'll see becomes like a major narrative of it in our lifetimes. But at the time, it was seen as just like another form of the blender and the washing machine. This was a new technology where we were actually programming ourselves to be happy.
I was reading this, I think it's a Richard Matheson. It's What Dreams May Come. They made a movie out of it. It's Richard Matheson's book about the afterlife. And because it's written in like the mid 20th century, it imagines heaven as kind of like what people thought a perfect city would be. But at that time, it's like shag carpeting, a lot of, open mall-like courtyards, light music playing everywhere with fountains that are in synchrony with the music. And it's funny to imagine like, this is a little bit dystopian to us, like this kind of it feels like a weird repressed society to us. But yeah, that's not just how they thought of the future. That's how they thought of heaven. They're like, they would be ideal.
Yeah.
If every city could be like that.
And this was a point at which once Rather or Rather, I didn't find him explaining how his name is to be
he's
pronounced.
From Texas, like Dan Rather.
Rather.
So it might just be Rather.
And his other claims to fame were that he was the one that restored the Spruce Goose.
Ah.
The Spruce Goose? No, the Spruce Goose and the Queen Mary, and made them both into tourist attractions. But he started to really see that in addition to productivity in companies, this was a key element in the shopping experience. This was the era where malls were being developed, where big shopping department stores were pumping this music in. And unlike the productivity of productivity stimulus technology of increasing tempos to increase productivity.
Yeah.
In shopping, you wanted slow music that was utterly without bummer, so that people just felt relaxed. They felt like moving through the retail space in a very sort of slow and easygoing tempo.
I assume they have data that tells them you'll buy more stuff.
You will buy more stuff. Not just buy more stuff, but associate the shopping experience with relaxation, with good, again, like thinking with the heart, not the mind,
I'm out of the house and enjoying myself.
And this is just like, I just feel really embraced and sheltered and warm inside.
And I'll spend more time here and therefore buy more.
Right. And by this point in time, the Muzak Orchestra is producing tons and tons and tons of music, so that there's music from, to kind of support a lot of different vibes, presumably neither gloomy nor ecstatic, but somewhere in between, but very much thought out and with whatever science they had at their disposal, tested and
stores can choose. So it's not like if you go into 6 stores that are all subscribing, you'll all hear the same song at the same time. There's different bands of
there's
Muzak.
A lot of different stuff, and then that kind of is what developed some of the first competition with Muzak, because record companies started making soft, easy listening albums
of their own hits that they had the rights to.
Well, or just hiring musicians and bands to make super duper chill. There was this
like a new genre.
Yeah, this is really hot. Like, let's put out some records that are just like, this record is called Good Vibrations, or this record is called like Have a Nice Day. And
And that's how you get Herb Alpert.
You get a lot of kind of like, mellow jams. And this was sort of the beginning of like, whoa, what's going on? Like, now this is actually right. Muzak is so pervasive throughout the culture.
People are listening to it on purpose.
That, they're putting records on and like, you know what, man, hey, you got to check this record out. And there was Muzak's, and these records were specifically designed for like, are you having a party at your house? And you don't want everybody like talking loud or feeling agitated by listening to Miles Davis? Like, put this record on and I had a party here and I put on some streaming service. I was just like, big band jazz. And it eliminated all of the kind of playlist mentality
like,
of
wait,
people.
what is this now?
Yeah, like,
now it's Pearl Jam?
And I specifically resisted the impulse to be a cool kid that had like, Granddaddy on his...
I made a playlist.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I had such a strong impulse to make a playlist for my party. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have time for that. I'm putting little American flags all over.
They're still there.
And they are.
By the way, we should explain, this is a 4th of July party.
Yeah.
You don't put up little American flags for every party you throw.
No, I don't. It was a 4th of July
Merry
party.
Christmas.
But here we are in September and there's still American flags everywhere, because I just was like, I like this. It makes me glad.
You play your little fife?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I still have like bunting in the kitchen. But then this was the dawn of a new mentality here in the late 60s. And predictably, I think, based on the overall theme of our show, it starts in Seattle, Washington.
I knew this was a Seattle thing.
Yep.
Because I know where it is. It was.
There was a company called the Yes Company that formed here in Seattle, sort of headed by a guy named Mark Torrance. And Mark Torrance also has he probably invented the light bulb. I don't remember whether Mark Torrance was a business guy. So we're now into the realm where business guys aren't inventing.
We don't assume he also produced Space 1999 and invented a new kind of pencil sharpener.
Yeah, this is the 1970s in Seattle. I'm sure he's just a guy in denim or like a denim shirt. Let's put him there. And his premise was, hey man, I'm just going to pick the bland tunes that are like on the radio, because there's so much music now that's like really just dudes with acoustic guitars and gals sitting and crooning. And
why shouldn't you hear Gordon Lightfoot at the store? Right.
I'm not going to go hire an orchestra to do this. And this is modern, contemporary, good music that young people can kind of lean into. I'm just going to start selling this as a Muzak alternative. And his first big client is Nordstrom.
Seattle-based.
Seattle Nordstrom. He's pumping in this like, oh, probably not even as edgy as Cat Stevens, but maybe.
But you go to Nordstrom and you hear Anne Murray. I don't know why I'm
Right.
thinking of Canadians only. Helen Reddy. It could be Australians.
Yeah, Helen Reddy, Anne Murray, all the greats.
You Light Up My Life by Debbie Boone is playing at Nordstrom.
So his company is called Yesco, and Yesco is also kind of following the Muzak stimulus progression theory that you program these tunes in a specific order over the course of 15 minutes or an hour to kind of encourage people to have certain feelings, certain vibes, maybe a little gloomy when Nordstrom is, when it's really sunny out, maybe a little ecstatic when it's really dark out. Like we're getting into the denim shirt era, so the stimulus progression is starting to be way more about vibes, a lot less about guys in white lab coats. But the Yesco problem is that the music industry had not at that point considered that you could just play their records commercially, not on the radio. They had it all worked out with radio.
Yeah, there were rights and royalties for that.
But this guy was just playing the hits.
And he wasn't paying off the record companies.
There wasn't any formula for that. And
it was the same as playing it at your party.
Yeah. So he got shut down by the music industry, but then the music industry was like, wait. This is before the music industry was like it is now, where they just hate music. They were like, whoa, why are we doing this? Like, having Helen Reddy and Nordstrom is like, it helps us all. And so they actually worked with Mark Torrance to essentially develop the royalty structure that then allowed Yesco to come back on the air and be ultimately a very successful company programming contemporary music in these sort of business environments.
Am I right that they were in that spot on Broadway for a long time?
Yeah.
The Jimi Hendrix statue?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it now? Like that Blick Art Supplies?
It's Blick Art Supplies, yeah. But they were, so then that area, we'll see in a second, that area became kind of a bustling hub for this sort of
music packaging
programming, because then a guy named Mike Malone, who'd been working with Yesco, branched off and formed, there was a company called Have a Nice Day Music. This is so Seattle in 1974. But they invented the concept of foreground music, which was just rock music.
Oh, I see.
But programmed
a certain kind of store.
Yeah.
You want to go in and hear The Dead or Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, right. And actually, I think Mark Torrance got his start. That's right. He did have a second or a first act. He was the Grateful Dead's light show dude. Or, he did light stuff. No,
He'd been thinking about vibes in popular music for a long time.
I don't think he was the original dude who did the oil drops.
Right.
I should do an omnibus on that guy. But
especially if he also invented the Hershey's Kiss.
Sure. Oh yeah, why have I not done any of that hippie stuff? Well, anyway, moving on. So he started a company called Audio Environments Incorporated, AEI, also a Seattle company that started promoting the idea of playlists, basically, of music. Not orchestral versions, not even chill versions, but just like music.
And that's an era that lasts into the 21st century, that you expect to go into a store. And although when they were CDs, when my sister worked retail, she heard the same 11 songs over and over, and then the CD restarted and customers didn't mind and the employees hated it. To this day, she cannot hear Pump It Up by Elvis Costello because she heard it 6 times per shift.
So this happened. I used to work at Steve's Broadway News, the newsstand on Broadway. Mm-hmm. And we had a CD player and we were allowed to play our own music. But then one of the guys was a Rastafarian, but he was like a punk rock Rastafarian. And he played a song that had a swear in it.
Oh, boy.
And a customer complained to Steve, the titular Steve, hey, I was in your store and I heard a swear word.
I didn't know there was a Steve.
There was a Steve. And Steve then said to his assistant manager, hey, we can't have swears, especially not these punk rock Rasta swears. And so we're going to have an approved list of CDs. So we had an approved list, and it was all jazz music. And so for the first 5 months, when you would come in, you'd play a CD, and then it would end, and you'd go in the back, and you'd change it to a new CD. And eventually, everybody just stopped caring. And the last CD to get put in was Kind of Blue.
Miles.
And nobody ever bothered to change it. And so for 4 years, I sat in that.
Just the end of the rotation.
And you just heard Kind of Blue over and over and over until I could do Kind of Blue with mouth trumpet.
And were you happy
all the way through?
Or were you not in an emotional place where you could change the CD?
No, it became just another form of like beat down. We're just wage slaves. I mean, I loved working at Steve's, but the background music just we turned it way down, and it was just back there percolating in this kind of like modern. He didn't do Kind of Blue to be shopping music, right? It was meant to be, you were supposed to think about. Miles Davis's music was meant to be.
But cool jazz was about mood.
It was.
And a more relaxed mood that's consistent with the newsstand shopping environment.
Yeah, but it wasn't meant to sell Cat Fancy magazine or what, like it definitely got inside my soul. And I, now if Miles was still alive and he came in here, I'd have some words for him.
It wasn't his fault.
Oh, wasn't it not?
Can I ask 2 questions at this point?
Go ahead.
One, do you remember the rumors that there were like backward masked messages in elevator music? Do you remember this?
Well, I remember it when it was in rock music.
Muzak. No, in Muzak, like specifically that the rumor was the store was telling you don't shoplift.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I believe it was never true.
Yeah.
But this is what people said about Muzak, was that they had loaded it with these things to make you buy more Pepsi or to spend more time in the store.
Well, so by this point, by the late 70s, early 80s, Muzak has become ubiquitous, right? It was already ubiquitous. Like Eisenhower had Muzak playing in the White House, and Lyndon Johnson actually, talk about a guy who did 2 things. He actually owned the Muzak franchise for Austin.
Just to be clear, what do you think the second thing Lyndon Johnson did was? Civil Rights Act and also owning the Muzak franchise?
I think Civil Rights Act, but maybe,
but mostly the Muzak franchise for Austin.
They actually played Muzak in the NASA in the space capsules.
Oh yeah, they would send them light music. Yeah,
just chill them out. Muzak, and so this was this early period. Muzak was really felt like we're sending this to astronauts. That's how important this is.
But at some point, the culture turned on Muzak, and it became a pejorative, and we would say, "Oh, that's just elevator music. You can't listen to that."
So by the 80s, it had become this kind of cultural, anathema.
It was a punchline.
But also rock people came out kind of speaking exactly to the idea that the mid-century people had been promoting, which was, this is music to numb you. We're no longer trying to create a perfect society. This was the boomer reply to it, like, you're talking about music for productivity and for like shopping and chilling, and like this isn't.
We're all against.
We're against
the music
war.
of protest is against this.
That's right, and punk rock is against it. New wave is against it. So a whole series. I mean, Andy Warhol was famously really in favor of Muzak. He loved it because it seems very Warholian. But all the rock people, you can imagine what Frank Zappa thought about it. You can imagine Devo actually put out a couple of records of Muzak versions of their own songs.
Oh, that's funny.
There was this Muzak became synonymous with compliance and lack of imagination, being brainwashed. We see it in a lot of films of the day where people get on an elevator and the Muzak is,
and it's a joke.
Yeah,
just some Herb Alperty thing, and sometimes it's a fight scene or something, and it's funny that there's Muzak playing. Or
Ted Nugent, famously America's premier asshole from really the beginning of his career to the present. It's remarkable. He's only gotten He keeps pace with America. He's always one step ahead of the worst people in America. He famously made an offer to buy Muzak so that he could shut it down.
Wow.
He offered them $10 million.
That's a real Kid Rock kind of middle finger.
Super middle finger. And of course, his offer was rejected. By this point now, Muzak is no longer on some secret side of FM radio. They sold it. Muzak sold in the 70s to a company called Teleprompter Music. Teleprompters being the famous, musicians use them for their lyrics.
And all kinds of on-camera people use it too.
Right, that's right. Teleprompters on television.
Not Jeopardy, but...
No, you can tell you're improvising.
Yeah, because it's so boring.
Yeah, you're like, hey, no kidding.
Nothing to say here.
You're from Cleveland, you say.
Let's play Jeopardy.
At this point, millions and millions of people are listening to it. And in the mid-'80s, Muzak actually started licensing rock from Yesco.
Huh.
And then in 85, Muzak started their own not background music company, and they called it Foreground Music One. Foreground Music One.
Which is also just the actual artist's cuts.
Yeah, it's just music, basically. And then in 86, it merged with Yesco. But instead of merging with Yesco and Yesco getting absorbed into the Muzak Corporation of Connecticut, Muzak and Yesco had about the same market capitalization, and Muzak moved to Seattle into the Yesco offices. And that's when the Seattle story of Muzak really starts.
So before Seattle was famous for grunge or really anything musically, it was famous for its elevator music.
Well, it was famous for Jimi Hendrix and the Sonics and
but
Quincy Jones.
But it wasn't famous, you know? You ask an American in 1980, hey, where's Quincy Jones from? They're not going to be like, Seattle, man.
But Muzak was for sure Seattle. And Muzak then, they're still doing their own versions of contemporary. They're doing now mellow rock versions of rock.
I feel like I still heard that stuff into the 90s in supermarkets.
Well, you may even still hear
maybe today.
Where you're listening to it and you're like, what is this? You realize,
like a second later, you're like, this is off of OK Computer.
In fact, Paul Simon famously said that he loves Muzak because he knows he's made a lasting hit when he hears a Muzak version of it in a supermarket.
Because it says something about the song, right?
Yeah.
Like the melody works. You know, you've written a classic like Yesterday if it works as Muzak.
Exactly. And Muzak's version of Yesterday is probably contributes to why Yesterday is the most played song in history, right? But so there was a whole industry, and actually that industry persists in the sense that you can hire any 24-year-old with GarageBand or any propeller.
Is it all just synths now? Like nobody's hiring musicians to do this?
Well, I think it's still musicians, although AI probably takes it over within a year. But
or in the last year.
But people doing these familiar melodies, but in versions that are not going to hurt your feelings. Nobody's going to say any swears. We probably could have gotten a less harsh version of Kind of Blue, recorded by a guy with a classical guitar. You hear it a lot when you're on hold music.
Yeah, exactly.
Contemporary songs that are, or rather, probably now classic rock. They're probably not doing Sabrina Carpenter.
A weirdly short loop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are people still making Muzak versions of Chapel Roan today?
Right.
Like, is that a thing, or I don't even know?
That's a really good question, and one that is in the family of wondering what the hell polarizing photochronography is, that I couldn't tell you whether there's a Chaperone Muzak. What happens to Muzak is eventually they go bankrupt. Then they're sold, they're reformulated and sold to a Canadian company called Mood Media. And like HBO or any other company, they realize that Mood is a way better brand than Muzak, a thing that we all know exactly what it is. And so they dissolved Muzak into Mood. Seems
like those always get turned around.
Yeah.
Like the next CEO will be like, just kidding, we're Max. We're not Max, we're HBO again.
Yeah. AEI persisted into the 90s. They ended up being a massive company. They had more listeners just playing music in a pre-streaming world. They were second only to MTV
But it was
in
still
terms of listeners.
but it was still in malls, or people were listening at home.
All over, not at home, but it was primarily like contracted to businesses. But we know about Muzak, as you were saying, because Muzak on Capitol Hill in Seattle in the 80s and 90s was famously one of the incubators of the grunge scene.
Yep.
Mark Arm from Mudhoney worked there. Tad, a lot of early sub pop artists worked there, not programming music, but just working in the warehouse, making whatever.
It was a music adjacent job for somebody like that. Right. So
Bruce Pavitt and Jonathan Poneman, who formed Sub Pop, also worked at Muzak. And when I first moved to Seattle, the Muzak headquarters was right in the center of the grottiest, grungiest. The Comet was on the corner here. The Linda's Tavern was down the road. It was like tumbleweeds in the streets otherwise. And then there was this loading dock with was bright white lights in this warehouse that you could look in and just see aisles and aisles and aisles of tapes of tracks. And then these long hairs, these like the grungiest of grungesters in there, kind of like, I think, always smirking at their job, like, I work at
Muzak. Can you believe Muzak still exists?
Yeah, and not only that, but like, like this is the most Gen X ironic grunge job you could possibly have.
Do you feel like grunge would not have existed in some ways? It turns out that like the Sub Pop guys learned how to run a music company by working at Muzak, or do we not get grunge without Muzak?
That'd be a really good question to ask those dinglings. They're still wandering around here. Oh, yeah. I feel like, did they all knew each other before they worked at Muzak, but it certainly was,
because this does not
minimum
figure,
wage job.
This does not figure in those early histories of Mudhoney. Nobody's like, without Muzak, everybody talks about the local bars and the bad weather and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But,
the heroin. But the real heroin was Muzak.
What's the state of music in the public sphere today? Like, it's all Spotify playlists. Is that right? Like when I walk through the store, occasionally I will hear like a surprise, like a song that will cheer me up because I'm a dad and I'm like, lol, this Metropolitan Market is playing Sky Blue Sky by Wilco, or the way that he sings by My Morning Jacket. And I'm very happy to hear mellow dad rock, but is that somebody just playing a Spotify playlist?
No, I think that, both AEI, Muzak, they were all absorbed into larger media companies that were trying to be in this pre-streaming music business, where it was past. Music now was able to be disseminated through satellite around the world. Early satellite radio, I guess, came before streaming.
Yeah.
And I think now part of the reason that musicians don't get paid anymore is that all of these contracts that the music industry had with these companies became so, just like atomized.
You get a fraction of a cent for.
If everybody is listening to Herb Alpert's Tijuana Brass, how do you ever gauge? They're all listening to it through their freaking watch. How do you gauge what a play is? How do you get money from and I think most of the companies that specifically provided this to businesses, the thing is you do still hear it in a very Muzak form. I listen to Muzak on hold all the time, but it always feels like the loop is really short.
Yeah, why is the loop so short?
And I feel like that is the final indignity of stimulus progression, that what they want is for you to hang up.
Oh, I see.
And so they found, because do you ever get on and it's just so loud and so harsh?
And they keep interrupting it with like something. Did you know you can use our online chat?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know you can access your account with a whatever tool?
And it's bullying.
Yeah.
And I think it's something maybe we'll do a future omnibus on whatever the transition was to this psychological desire to get people to stop using your service.
It's hostile architecture, but for your own customers. I love it. Hostile architecture for phones. And that concludes Muzak, entry 820.1S1616, certificate number 54082, in the omnibus. The omnibus, as always, is brought to you by social media. Today, our letter of the day is I for Instagram and X for X. Before social media got bad, we were at Omnibus Project everywhere. Still at John Roderick, at Ken Jennings, various places. You can email us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com to explain to us what a polarizing chromophotography is? Whatever it was, photochronography?
Yeah, it was polarizing photochronography.
Not really that interested, but thank you. You can send us physical items. I think I opened this last week and then forgot to read it on the show. It's a note from Jeff who says he's a veterinarian from New Jersey. I don't watch Jeopardy. You don't have to lead with that, Jeff.
Okay.
Oh, but he did go to vet school with a Jeopardy winner from 2025.
Is it a Jeopardy winner you know?
It would be if it was June 2025, except that there's, hundreds of contestants a year, so I don't really hang out with them all. Omnibus was suggested to me in 2019 by the most eccentric veterinarian I ever worked with. Did you know this show is a big hit with eccentric vets?
Does he fly a biplane?
Probably. But he only takes dogs and cats up.
Catsup?
Catsup. I find your topics informative and relaxing. This is AI. My wife even goes so far as to say that your podcast, quote, isn't too boring.
Oh.
Thank you, Jeff's wife.
Golly.
But he wanted to send us a gift that represents his profession.
Is it a gift certificate to get your cat anal glands taken out?
It's in a pill bottle, so I was like, why is he sending us? Is this some kind of tranquilizer that also works on humans?
Horse tranquilizer. I took that once in England.
He's hooking us up. No, even though they're in a pill bottle, this is not something you put in a dog. This is something you take out. Please enjoy the enclosed collection of urocystoliths, bladder stones removed from a dog. Struvite stones made up of magnesium, ammonium, and phosphate, the minerals in urine. I tried to dissolve them with a special diet and antibiotics, but was unsuccessful. So we have a souvenir instead.
Hold it up and let me see what those look like.
What I'm wondering is, when did he eliminate the part where he had to go in surgically and remove these, or did he put down the dog?
Oh,
no, he does say, I surgically removed them. Okay, that's a relief.
Well, have you given them a little science smith?
Well, he says they smell like dog piss. And they do. As a dog owner, I can say, this is what my downstairs carpet smells like.
You have a dog that wears a diaper.
I
hope
do.
You don't mind me outing you as a diaper daddy.
I feel like you're doxing my dog.
Yeah.
It's
a nice dog.
He's not actually that old. He just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He would just rather pee downstairs when you're not looking than go outside.
I took him outside in the front yard and to pee, ostensibly to pee, and he peed, and I watched him pee, but I forgot that he was wearing a diaper. And so he's in the pee position, and I'm like,
good boy.
I'm like, good boy. I actually praised him, like, good boy, but I didn't see any pee, and then I realized, he's peeing in his little pants.
Oops. He's a black and white dog, and when he wears his red diaper, he looks like Mickey Mouse. So that's fun.
Oh.
He does want to say that he thinks you would like this for Roderick reasons. He wants us to say veterinarian with 6 syllables like no one does. Veterinarian. It sounds like somebody who just does good deeds for veterans.
Oh, a veterinarian.
Yeah, a veteran humanitarian.
Veterinarian.
Oh, and here on the back, here's the analysis of the Urolith, which is 90% on the outside, 90% struvite, 10% calcium phosphate carbonate. The middle is all struvite. Oh, sorry, the nidus is the middle, and then the shell is 95% struvite. It's not that interesting, but
not really.
But I'm glad that we have a lab analysis of the dog pee smelling rocks he sent us.
Now we have it. I think this should be one of the things that you take home with yours, because let your dog smell it. And
what if I just sprinkle it all over?
Stop that! Put the lid back on.
Apparently, he wrote us way back in 2020 to say that we should do a show on a veterinarian tool called the snook hook. I think we're not against that.
All right, let me write snook hook down here.
We're still considering that. Thank you, Jeff. Let's also see if there's a postcard here. This looks small. Oh, from Osaka. Peter went to the 2025 World Expo. We do love World's fairs at Omnibus. Did you know there was one going on in Osaka this year?
I didn't.
I had no idea, but Peter is there. Thank you for letting us know, because you got to keep up with World's fairs. And once again, the Center for Land Use Interpretation
Oh, yes.
in Culver City, California, would like us to know that I hope it's still going because this started in early August. They're doing an exhibit on rare earth critical minerals in the USA with an extremely unphotogenic postcard of a quarry.
No, that's terrible
Of
postcard. But, people love terrible postcards.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very interested in rare earths.
Oh, for sure. Your phone wouldn't work without it.
It's big stuff.
We're all going to run out of vanadium someday, and then where will we be?
Where will we be?
I don't know. China will have all the vanadium.
And then what are we going to do? We're all going to be speaking Chinese, Ken.
Pay through the nose for Chinese vanadium, and they'll be the only ones doing any kind of scientific research. So, really,
Right.
our future as a vassal state is assured.
Yeah, no, it's nice that we're returning to a company or a country that is making their own tin cans, but I do feel like we should still be spending money on science.
You can still,
I know I'm in the minority.
You can still eat all the beef tallow you want.
Yeah.
You could just also have science.
Science.
There's no reason.
Science.
The two options are not science or beef tallow, are they? I wouldn't
No.
have thought so.
No, you can have both. In fact, I bet you there are ways to use beef tallow in science.
Probably. Just like to rub it on the test tubes?
Or use it to, I don't know. Beats me. I don't know anything about beef tallow. I think my mom used to spread it on toast, or maybe that was pork tallow.
I don't know if you should put any kind of tallow on toast.
Well, no, they used to use pork fat as just like the way we use butter.
Oh.
They had more pork fat than butter.
Yeah.
If that gives you a sense of how people used to eat.
It's a little cheaper.
Yeah, well, it's a byproduct, whereas butter is a thing you have to actually work to make.
That's right. Pork, You're like, what do we do with all
Oh
this extra
boy,
pork?
got all this extra pork.
The Futurelings can find each other online just by looking for the word Futureling. So far, it doesn't mean anything else in Urban Dictionary that I can tell.
Isn't that good? Isn't that nice?
And the show has stayed small enough that no one has heard of us or our coinages. We love that. And finally, there are many ways to support Omnibus. You could send us something you took out of your dog's excretory system.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's the main thing we like. But if for whatever reason you're unable to send us weird stones from your animal glands, you could go to patreon.com/omnibus project and support the show with a small monetary, not even a donation, a monetary credit that allows you to access to many amazing omnibus related perks and prizes.
Yeah, it's just like our version of multiplexing.
That's right.
Yeah, you give us a little bit of money and you can get all these extra shows through the wires.
Money goes in the tube, but the same tube can carry like 70 addenda shows. Immediately will show up at your front door. A feed of like a video and photo content, all kinds of
It's
stuff.
going to come right out of the tubes.
Patreon.com/omnibus project. Go right now.
If you search Futurelings, the first thing you get is Our Futurelings from Reddit, and then several Our Futurelings. Then Where to Start. Our Futurelings has a Where to Start page. And here in the short version of it, it says, I really enjoyed the Darien Gap, episode 14, and Defenestration, both John episodes, I like to point out. And then wait a minute, do we own this? Futurelings.com?
I feel like at some point you said, let's buy this, and maybe we did.
Well, it says it's got a cool update pending. Try again later.
Or it could be a fan.
We got to figure out who owns Futurelings.com.
It's a fan for sure.
Well, if you're listening and you own Futurelings.com, contact us and we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
We are going to pay you in eurosystoliths from a dog's bladder.
Look at this. There's a Futurelings book group on Goodreads.com where people are
Posting omnibus-related book recommendations.
Looks like it. Welcome to the book group.
I love it.
Futurelings, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to...
What about the goods and cheese?
If Providence allows, we wish you many goods and cheese and hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the office.